The unexpected guest Marcus Chen tightened the wrench around the coolant pipe, sweat dripping from his forehead despite the constant chill in the lower maintenance levels of Colony Zariant 7. The storm outside howled like a living thing, rattling the reinforced walls and making the lights flicker with each lightning strike. At 28, Marcus had been working night shifts for 3 years, maintaining the systems that kept 2,000 colonists alive on this remote mining world at the edge of known space. The other maintenance workers called him crazy for volunteering for the graveyard shift, but Marcus preferred the solitude. During the day, the corridors buzzed with miners, researchers, and families going about their lives. At night, it was just him, the steady hum of machinery, and his own thoughts. He had grown tired of small talk and forced smiles. The machines never judged him, never asked why he spent his off hours reading old Earth literature instead of joining the weekly social gatherings in the recreation dome. Thunder crashed overhead, so loud it made the metal walls groan. The storm had been building for days, and the weather sensors showed it would continue through the week. Zarian 7's storms were legendary among Outer Rim colonies, with electromagnetic pulses that could fry unshielded, electronics and winds that could tear apart anything not anchored to bedrock. Most colonists huddled in their quarters during weather like this, but the life support systems never slept. Marcus finished adjusting the pipe and gathered his tools. The maintenance tunnel stretched ahead of him, lit by strips of pale blue emergency lighting. His footsteps echoed in the narrow space as he made his way toward the power distribution center. The night shift checklist was simple but crucial. Monitor the fusion reactor, inspect the atmospheric processors, and ensure the heating systems were functioning properly. One small failure in the wrong place could spell disaster for everyone. Above Dot, as he rounded a corner near the old storage bay, something made him stop. A soft sound, barely audible over the storm, reached his ears. It sounded almost like crying, but different somehow, more musical. Marcus paused, listening intently. The sound came again, a melodic whimper that seemed to tug at something deep in his chest. Following the sound, Marcus found himself at the entrance to Storage Bay 7, a section that had been sealed off for months due to structural damage from the last major storm. The heavy security door stood slightly ajar, which was impossible. The magnetic locks required an access code that only senior staff possessed. "Hello," Marcus called out, his voice swallowed by the darkness beyond the door. "Is someone in there?" The crying stopped immediately, replaced by a silence so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. He pulled out his work light and pushed the door open wider. The storage bay was filled with old mining equipment and supply containers, their metal surfaces covered in a thin layer of dust. But in the far corner, something glimmered. Marcus stepped inside, his light beam sweeping across the room. What he saw made him freeze in place. Huddled between 2 supply crates was a creature unlike anything in the colony's xenobiology database. It was small, roughly the size of a large dog, with scales that seemed to capture and reflect his light in impossible ways. The creature had 4 delicate legs, translucent wings folded against its back, and a long, graceful neck topped by a head that was unmistakably intelligent. But it was the eyes that stopped Marcus's breath. They were large and luminous, filled with a depth of emotion that reminded him of looking into a clear mountain lake under starlight. The creature was injured, he realized. One wing hung at an odd angle, and several of its scales were cracked, leaking a substance that looked like liquid starlight. "Hey there," Marcus whispered, slowly crouching down and dimming his light. "I'm not going to hurt you." The creature tilted its head, studying him with those remarkable eyes. Then, impossibly, a voice spoke directly into Marcus's mind. Not words exactly, but concepts and emotions that his brain somehow translated into language. Sleep here tonight. Safe place. Marcus nearly dropped his light. He had heard stories from the outer colonies about telepathic species, but Zarian 7 had been surveyed extensively before colonization. No intelligent life had been detected. The only native creatures were simple organisms that lived in the planet's vast underground cave systems. You can communicate, Marcus said, more to himself than to the creature. You're hurt. What happened to you? The response came as a flood of images and emotions. Deep caverns filled with crystal formations that sang with their own light. A community of beings like this one, living in harmony with the planet's geological rhythms, then darkness, explosions, the violent collapse of ancient stone chambers, the desperate flight through collapsing tunnels, as everything the creature had ever known was destroyed. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks as he experienced the creature's memories, the mining operations. Humanity's expansion into the deep cave systems had destroyed an entire civilization. This small being was likely the only survivor of its kind. The deep mining, Marcus whispered, we didn't know. We never detected your people. We live quiet, came the reply, tinged with exhaustion. Crystal song hidden from metal thinking machines. Marcus understood. This species had evolved to exist in harmony with their environment. Their biological signatures masked by the planet's natural crystal formations. The mining surveys had looked for obvious signs of intelligence. Cities, technologies, electromagnetic signatures. They had never thought to look for a species that lived so seamlessly with their world that they were invisible to. Human senses. The creature tried to shift position and whimpered in pain. Marcus could see that the injured wing was bleeding more heavily now. Without thinking, he reached into his maintenance kit and pulled out a roll of synthetic bandaging material. May I? He asked, holding up the bandage. The creature considered for a moment, then extended its injured wing. As Marcus carefully cleaned and wrapped the wound, he was amazed by the trust this being was showing him. After everything humanity had unknowingly taken from it, it was still willing to accept help from a human. Name's sound is Zara, the creature said as Marcus worked. The concept came with overtones that suggested little light or hope spark. I'm Marcus, he replied aloud. Marcus Chen, can you understand when I speak out loud? Voice sounds strange, but meaning clear. You have gentle thinking. As Marcus finished tending to Zara's wounds, he found himself facing an impossible situation. Protocol demanded that he report any discovery of intelligent life immediately. The colony's scientific team would be thrilled to study the last survivor of an unknown species. But looking into Zara's trusting eyes, Marcus knew he couldn't turn her over to become a research subject. Are there others of your kind? Marcus asked gently. The wave of grief that answered him nearly knocked him over. Images of the collapse, of desperate calls through the crystal networks going unanswered, of days of searching through rubble and finding nothing but silence. Only Zara remains. Marcus sat back on his heels, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the tragedy. An entire species gone, and humanity had done it without even knowing they existed. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders like a physical burden. You asked if you could sleep here tonight, Marcus said finally. The answer is yes. You can stay as long as you need to. Zara's scales shimmered brighter for a moment, and Marcus felt a wave of gratitude and relief flow from the small dragon. But even as he made the promise, Marcus knew the complications were just beginning. The storage bay was too exposed, too close to the main maintenance routes, and Zara would need food, proper medical care, and time to heal both physically and emotionally. More importantly, Marcus realized that Zara represented something precious beyond measure. She was the living memory of an entire world, the keeper of knowledge that had developed over millennia. If humanity was ever going to make amends for what they had unknowingly destroyed, it would have to start with protecting the one survivor they had been lucky enough to find. As if summoned by his thoughts, Marcus's communication device crackled to life. Maintenance 7, this is Control. We're reading some unusual energy fluctuations in your sector. Everything normal down there? Marcus glanced at Zara, whose scales had dimmed at the sound of the voice. He keyed his unit. Control, this is Maintenance 7. Just the storm. Causing some interference with the sensors. All systems nominal. Copy that. 7. Stay alert. We've had reports of some strange readings all over the lower levels tonight. Marcus's blood ran cold. If the colony's sensors were detecting Zara's presence, it was only a matter of time before security teams came looking. He had to find a way to hide her, to keep her safe while he figured out what to do next. Zara, he said quietly, I think we need to find you a better place to hide. Somewhere the other humans won't look. The dragon-like creature looked at him with those ancient, wise eyes, and Marcus felt the weight of trust she was placing in him. Whatever happened next, he would not betray that trust, even if it meant risking everything he had built on Zarian 7. He would protect the last of her kind. The storm outside continued to rage, but Marcus barely noticed it anymore. His world had just become infinitely larger and more complicated, all because a frightened survivor had asked if she could sleep in his corner of the universe for one night. Little did he know that this moment would change not just his life, but the future of human-alien relations forever. The bond that changed everything. 3 days had passed since Marcus first found Zara in Storage Bay 7, and keeping her hidden was proving more challenging than he had anticipated. The abandoned maintenance shaft behind the water reclamation plant had seemed perfect at first, isolated, climate-controlled, and far from any regular inspection routes. Marcus had used his access codes to create a small sanctuary, complete with emergency lighting, a heat source, and enough supplies to keep Zara comfortable. But Zara was not just any alien creature. As her physical wounds healed, Marcus began to understand the true extent of what humanity had lost when the mining operations destroyed her people's underground cities. She possessed knowledge that spanned centuries, an intuitive understanding of energy manipulation that made human technology look primitive by comparison. Show me again, Marcus whispered, kneeling beside Zara in their hidden refuge. He held out a standard power cell from his maintenance kit, watching as Zara's scales began to glow with soft bioluminescence. Watch-learn. She said into his mind, her mental voice much stronger now than it had been that first night. Crystal song is harmony between what does and what could be. Zara gently touched the power cell with the tip of one claw. Immediately, the device began to glow, its energy output increasing exponentially. But more than that, Marcus could feel the energy somehow. It had texture, warmth, and what he could only describe as personality. How are you doing that? Marcus asked, mesmerized by the display. "Your kind thinks energy is thing," Zara explained, her thoughts carrying undertones of gentle amusement. "Energy is conversation. Must listen, must sing back." Over the past few days, Zara had been teaching Marcus to perceive what she called the crystal song, the natural energy patterns that flowed through all matter. It was like learning to see color after a lifetime of blindness. The walls around them hummed with their own frequency. The air itself carried currents of power that could be redirected and amplified with the right understanding. Marcus's communication device suddenly buzzed with an urgent message. His heart sank as he read the text from Colony Administrator Sarah Walsh. "Emergency meeting. All department heads. Conference room A. 0800 hours. Critical power shortage developing." "I have to go," Marcus told Zara, quickly hiding the enhanced power cell in his toolkit. "There's a problem with the colony's systems." Marcus' friend worried. Zara observed, her scales shifting to deeper blues that Marcus had learned indicated concern. "What troubles the Metal Cave people?" "Power problems," Marcus explained, gathering his gear. "The fusion reactor has been running at reduced capacity for weeks. If it fails completely, everyone in the colony could die." Marcus felt a wave of complex emotions from Zara as she processed this information. Curiosity, concern, and something else, a kind of recognition, as if she had been expecting this. "Deep ground singing has changed," Zara said finally. "Mining machines broke harmony. Stone song grows weak." Marcus paused in his preparations, struck by the implications of what Zara was saying. "You mean the mining operations didn't just destroy your people's cities? They damaged the planet's natural energy systems too." "All connected," Zara confirmed. "Planet breathes through crystal veins. Humans cut veins, breathing becomes difficult." The meeting in Conference Room A was unlike any Marcus had ever attended. Administrator Walsh looked haggard, her usually perfect appearance marred by obvious stress and lack of sleep. Chief Engineer Rodriguez presented data that painted a grim picture. The fusion reactor was operating at 60% efficiency and declining. The backup power systems were already being rotated to prevent overload. "At current consumption rates, we have perhaps 2 weeks before we face a complete power failure," Rodriguez concluded. "I've sent distress signals to Earth and the nearest colonies, but evacuation ships won't arrive for at least a month." "What about emergency protocols?" asked Dr. Kim from the research department. "We could reduce life support to essential areas only, shut down all non-critical systems." "We've already done that," Walsh replied grimly. "It's buying us time, but not enough. The reactor's problems seem to be getting worse, not better. It's as if the entire planetary power grid is destabilizing." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the conference room's temperature. Zara's words echoed in his mind. The mining operations had broken the planet's natural energy harmony. Zarian 7 wasn't just a rock with useful minerals. It was a complex system, and humanity had been strip mining its vital organs as the meeting continued. Marcus found himself thinking about the power cell Zara had enhanced. She had increased its output by at least 300% with nothing more than touch and understanding. If her people's knowledge could be applied to the colony's power systems, but that would mean revealing Zara's existence. It would mean turning her over to the same species that had unknowingly committed genocide against her people. The thought made Marcus sick, but as he looked around the room at the faces of his colleagues, people he had worked with for 3 years, people with families and dreams, he realized the terrible choice that lay ahead. After the meeting, Marcus returned, to Zara's hiding place, his mind churning with conflict. She was waiting for him, her scales now displaying the deep purples that indicated she was accessing her people's ancestral memories. Marcus' friend carries heavy thinking, she observed as soon as he entered the small space. Marcus sat down beside her, suddenly feeling exhausted. Zara, I need to ask something of you. Something that isn't fair, something that puts you at risk. He explained the colony's situation, the failing power systems, the thousands of lives hanging in the balance. As he spoke, Zara's expressions shifted through a complex range of colors, her ancient mind processing the implications of what he was asking. Asterisk shows Zara the great Energy heart of Metal Cave, she said finally. Cannot fix what Zara cannot see. Tush. The reactor complex. That's impossible. Security is too tight, and even if I could get you inside, the radiation levels would... Marcus stopped, remembering what he had learned about Zara's species over the past few days. They had evolved in the planet's deep places, living in harmony with the same radioactive minerals that powered the colony's systems. Would the radiation hurt you? Radiation is crystal song made visible, Zara replied, her mental voice carrying traces of amusement. Like asking if sunshine hurts bird. That night, Marcus made the most dangerous decision of his life. Using his maintenance, access, and knowledge of the colony's shift schedules, he managed to guide Zara through the service tunnels to the reactor complex. Getting past the security checkpoints required every trick he had learned in 3 years of night shift work, plus a few moments of breathless improvisation when a security guard decided to do an unexpected patrol. When they finally reached the reactor chamber, Zara's reaction was immediate and intense. Her scales began to glow so brightly that Marcus had to shield his eyes, and waves of distress poured from her mind. Wrong, she transmitted, her mental voice filled with pain. Great heart is screaming, stone blood flows backward. Number. Harmony, only chaos. Marcus watched in amazement as Zara approached the massive fusion containment unit. She moved with complete confidence, despite the radiation that should have been lethal to any organic life form. Her claws traced patterns on the reactor's hull, and Marcus could swear he heard something like music emanating from the machinery. Can fix, Zara announced after several minutes of examination. But fixing means showing self to all Metal Cave people. Cannot hide heal at the same time. Marcus felt his heart sink. He had hoped against hope that Zara might be able to repair the systems secretly, allowing him to protect her while saving the colony. But of course, it couldn't be that simple. What would happen if you revealed yourself? Marcus asked. Zara's response came as a complex stream of possibilities and probabilities, filtered through her understanding of human nature. Some humans would want to study her, others would fear her. There would be those who would seek to exploit her knowledge, and those who would blame her species for the mining disasters that were actually humanity's fault. But there would also be humans like Marcus, people who would choose compassion over fear, understanding over exploitation. Zara has choice, she said finally. Save Metal Cave people and trust in human kindness, or stay hidden and let all things end. I can't ask you to do this, Marcus said, his voice breaking. Your people didn't get a choice when we destroyed their world. You shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself to fix our mistakes. But even as he spoke, Marcus could see that Zara had already made her decision. Her scales had shifted to the brilliant golds that indicated determination and acceptance. Marcus' friend asked Zara if could sleep here one night. She said, her mental voice warm with affection. This place is Zara's home now. These people are Zara's people, too. We'll not let home die. What followed was the most extraordinary display of xenotechnology that any human had ever witnessed. Working through the night, Zara began the delicate process of reharmonizing the colony's power systems with Zarian 7's natural energy flows. Her scales blazed with bioluminescent patterns as she sang to the planet's crystal networks, coaxing them back into their ancient rhythms. Marcus watched in awe as the reactor's efficiency readings climbed from 60% to 70%, then 80%, then beyond anything the human engineers had thought possible. But more than that, the entire colony's power grid was stabilizing. Systems that had been straining for months suddenly ran smoothly, and the constant threat of cascading failures simply disappeared. Dawn was breaking when Administrator Walsh and Chief Engineer Rodriguez arrived for the morning system checks, accompanied by a full security team. Marcus had known this moment would come, but seeing the weapons trained on Zara still made his blood boil. "Stand away from the creature, Marcus," Walsh ordered, her voice tight with fear and authority. But before Marcus could respond, Zara stepped forward. Her scales shifted to a pattern Marcus had never seen before, bands of silver and gold that seemed to pulse with their own heartbeats. No fear, her voice spoke directly into the minds of everyone present. Zara is friend, Zara is helper, Zara is last guardian of Crystal Song. What followed was the most important conversation in human history. Zara, with Marcus serving as her advocate and translator, told the story of her people and explained what the mining operations had done to Zarian 7's energy systems. She offered her knowledge freely, asking only for acceptance and the promise that humanity would learn to work with alien worlds rather than simply exploiting them. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the evidence was undeniable. The colony's power systems were running at 150% efficiency. The environmental problems that had plagued Zarian 7 for years were resolving themselves, and Zara had accomplished in one night what human engineers had failed to do in months of effort. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly established Zarian 7 Interspecies Research Station, watching as Zara worked with a team of human and AI specialists to decode the planet's crystal networks. She had grown in those weeks, both physically and emotionally, her scales now displaying colors that Marcus had learned meant contentment and hope. The young dragon had become the bridge between two species, teaching humans to see the universe as a living system, rather than a collection of resources to be harvested. And Marcus, the lonely night shift maintenance worker, had become humanity's first interspecies liaison, the person trusted by both communities to ensure that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. Marcus' friend, Zara's voice touched his mind as she approached the observation window. Zara is grateful for First Night Shelter, grateful for trust. "I should be thanking you," Marcus replied, watching as the planet's reformed crystal networks sent pulses of light deep into the surface. "You saved us all." "Saved each other," Zara corrected gently. "That is what family does." Marcus smiled, understanding that she was right. The small dragon who had asked for shelter one storm-lashed night had become family, had become hope, had become the beginning of something entirely new in the galaxy. And it had all started with the simplest human instinct. When someone asks for help, you help them. Outside the station, Zarian 7's crystal networks sang their ancient songs, now harmonized with human technology in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. It was the sound of the future, a melody of cooperation, understanding, and the endless possibilities that opened up when different beings chose trust over fear. The storm that had brought Zara to Marcus's door had long since passed, but the changes it had set in motion would echo across the stars for generations to come. Asterisk.